South Korea's entertainment industry was shaken once again as Bang Si-hyuk, the influential founder and chairman of HYBE Corporation, the powerhouse behind global superstars BTS, was summoned for a second round of police questioning this week. The renewed scrutiny is part of an ongoing investigation into alleged irregularities surrounding HYBE's initial public offering, IPO, and its financial dealings. According to Seoul authorities, investigators are examining claims that certain financial disclosures were either manipulated or concealed during HYBE's listing on the KOSPI in 2020. At the center of the probe is whether HYBE executives, including Bang, failed to fully disclose key risks tied to artist contracts and overseas business ventures, potentially misleading investors and inflating the company's valuation. The stakes are high. HYBE, widely credited with transforming K-pop into a global cultural force, has grown into one of South Korea's most valuable entertainment companies, with business arms spanning music labels, technology platforms, fashion, gaming, and even lifestyle brands. Its IPO was hailed as a landmark moment for the Korean entertainment sector, turning Bang into a billionaire and cementing HYBE's reputation as a cultural conglomerate. However, mounting allegations threaten to tarnish that image. Reports suggest investigators are reviewing communications between HYBE executives and financial underwriters, with accusations that projections of BTS's activities were overly optimistic, despite the looming hiatus for military service that eventually began in 2022. Critics argue that this omission left retail investors vulnerable, particularly as BTS's hiatus had a significant impact on HYBE's revenue streams. Bang Si-hyuk, often dubbed Hitman Bang for his track record of producing chart-topping hits, has so far maintained his innocence, emphasizing that HYBE followed all required legal and financial procedures during the IPO process. Still, his second summons signals that authorities believe new evidence or testimony may warrant further questioning. The scandal comes at a sensitive time for both HYBE and BTS, with the group's highly anticipated reunion and confirmed comeback scheduled for 2026. Investors had hoped the company would enter a new phase of stability and growth. Instead, the cloud of controversy could undermine investor confidence, and, in turn, HYBE's share price, which has already shown signs of volatility following news of the investigation. Industry analysts are divided. Some believe HYBE is strong enough to weather the storm, pointing to its diverse portfolio and BTS's inevitable return to the global stage. Others warn that if Bang or other executives are found culpable, it could trigger regulatory crackdowns and reputational damage not only for HYBE, but for the wider K-pop industry, which is increasingly under global scrutiny for its labor practices, financial structures, and corporate governance. For ARMY, the passionate fanbase of BTS, the investigation has sparked mixed reactions. While many remain supportive of the group and separate them from corporate controversies, others worry that HYBE's troubles could overshadow BTS's long-awaited comeback. As the case unfolds, one thing is clear: the outcome of this investigation could reshape not just the trajectory of HYBE, but also the future of K-pop as a global cultural and economic powerhouse.
Public reaction in South Korea has been mixed. While some citizens criticize what they see as corporate greed and lack of accountability, others worry that the scandal could damage the nation's cultural exports, which have become a key driver of soft power and economic growth. HYBE is not just any company, it's a national symbol, said Lee Ji-won, a cultural studies professor at Yonsei University. If trust in HYBE is shaken, it risks undermining confidence in the entire K-pop industry at a time when global audiences are paying closer attention than ever. Online, hashtags related to the scandal trended briefly, but many armies emphasized their focus remains on supporting the members. BTS is BTS. We love them, not corporate drama, wrote one fan on X, formerly Twitter. Bong Si-hook's next moves will be critical. Legal experts suggest the investigation could stretch on for months, with possible scenarios ranging from fines to stricter corporate oversight, or, in the worst case, criminal charges, if deliberate wrongdoing is proven. For now, HYBE insists it has cooperated fully with authorities and denies any intentional misrepresentation during the IPO process. The company has also doubled down on its future plans, highlighting BTS's 2026 comeback, new artist debuts, and expansion into global markets as evidence of long-term stability. Still, with investors, regulators, and fans watching closely, the coming months may prove decisive in determining not only HYBE's corporate trajectory, but also how the world views the intersection of business, culture, and music in the K-pop era. October 2020, HYBE, then known as Big Hit Entertainment, launched its IPO on the Korea Exchange. Shares skyrocketed, briefly making Bong Si-hook a billionaire. Critics noted the heavy reliance on BTS for revenue. 2021 to 2022, HYBE expanded aggressively, acquiring Ithaca Holdings in the US and establishing Weavers as a leading fan platform. At the same time, questions grew about whether investors were adequately warned about BTS's impending military enlistment. December 2022, the first BTS members began enlisting for mandatory military service. HYBE stock faced sharp declines as earnings forecasts adjusted downward. 2023 to 2024, South Korea's Financial Supervisory Service received complaints from investor advocacy groups alleging HYBE had overstated revenue projections and minimized potential risks in its IPO disclosures. Mid-2025, the Seoul Metropolitan Police announced a formal investigation into possible violations of financial disclosure laws tied to the IPO. September 2025, Bong Si-hook was summoned twice by authorities for questioning, signaling the seriousness of the inquiry. The controversy isn't limited to South Korea. HYBE's global footprint means international investors, especially from the US, Japan, and Europe, are watching developments closely. Several hedge funds and institutional investors have raised questions about corporate governance standards at K-pop companies, warning that scandals of this scale could cool foreign investment in the broader Korean entertainment industry. According to Seoul-based financial analyst Park Min-soo, HYBE's IPO was supposed to prove that K-pop companies can play on the same level as Silicon Valley or Wall Street firms. But if irregularities are proven, it sends the opposite message, that Korean entertainment companies aren't yet prepared for full transparency in global capital markets. The investigation comes at a delicate time for South Korea's cultural exports. K-pop, once seen primarily as entertainment, is now an integral part of the country's economy and diplomatic influence. BTS, in particular, has represented South Korea on the world stage, from performing at the United Nations to meeting U.S. presidents. If HYBE, the industry's flagship company, faces legal or reputational setbacks, it could cast a shadow on the entire K-pop ecosystem. Rival agencies like SM Entertainment, JYP, and YG are watching closely, as regulatory fallout could increase compliance costs across the sector. For now, fans, investors, and industry peers are waiting to see how the scandal unfolds. Legal experts suggest it could take months before prosecutors decide whether to pursue charges. Even without criminal proceedings, a drawn-out investigation could distract HYBE's leadership at a time when strategic focus is needed for BTS's 2026 comeback. Bong Si-hook remains publicly defiant. In a recent closed-door meeting with executives, he reportedly urged the company to stay focused on music, fans, and innovation, downplaying the investigation as a temporary storm. But with regulators tightening their grip and the global press paying close attention, the storm shows no signs of clearing just yet.